morning and welcome to Viewpoint, your program of personalities, politicians, and perspectives. Happily to keep us there on the air, we're not going to bring politicians up today because I might say things that might lose us our FCC license. So we'll stick with the personalities and the perspectives. Judith K., both of our listeners out there will try to remember that we always try to start Viewpoint with a kudo or two.
Yes, sir.
2 kudos, all wrapped up into one. A short time ago, we had associates of our guest today, Officer Christy Fougier and Officer Tim Butterfield, who are, am I correct in saying, Chief Resource officers in our elementary and high school system. So kudos, hats off to that, and I mean this very seriously. Those folks in today's time perform a very, very important job for us, and they been doing it a long time. They know what the heck they're doing. So kudos to those two in particular, Chief. So go right ahead and introduce our guest this morning.
Yes, Chief Paul Adams is with us, and he's been with the police for any number of years now.
Don't date him.
Yeah. Well, we're awfully glad you came, and of course, what we're going to talk about is defund the police. Some retard out there decided that was the thing they wanted to tackle. Why, I don't know. I think it's probably the dumbest thing I've ever heard of, and I'm old. I've heard a lot of dumb things. But this really takes the cake. When this first blossomed, what did you think?
Well, it's just the mechanics of trying to defund the police when you've got, we already were in a position where crime was already getting bad in the first place. And then I don't know how you take police officers, the people that put their lives on their line every day to try to keep our community safe. Who are you supposed to
call if it's not the police? Your jeweler?
I guess.
Would that help?
I do not know.
Well, Chief Adams, how was... we understand the major metropolitan area. Well, no, you really can't understand anything that goes on in those places. But seriously, how in the world would defund the police under that guise, under that title, affect the Mayberries of the country? Small police departments like Lincoln, Illinois. Well, even go down to Sangamon County down the line. That's by other standards, that's a small police department. How in the world do people think that a community, a municipality, can operate an efficient force by defunding that particular department?
I'm not sure, to tell you the truth. I don't know how they expect that to work. The biggest problem you have is organized gangs throughout the country. Even in Mexico, you have organized gangs that they have essentially chain of commands, just like police do or military do.
Sure.
And they're expanding, and they're trying to expand their networks. They're trying to expand their drug markets, and they're trying to figure out ways to get more and more money into themselves. And the problem you have is, Chicago, let's say, it's the biggest, closest city that we have that has a lot of gangs in it. They have a big gang problem up there. And that gang problem is essentially moving to all your smaller cities. So Springfield, Champaign, Peoria, all of them now have these issues with these gangs moving in. And it's the police job to try to keep them destabilized, to try to keep them on the run. And if you don't have the police here, who's going to stop that? Who's going to put the walls up? Essentially, the thin blue line between what is bad and what is good. So that's the problem you have, is organized gangs getting out of control, and we've seen that here in Lincoln before. And because what they'll do is they'll tend to use this as a hiding spot, essentially, you could say. So they'll come to Lincoln and kind of find a rental apartment or something like that, and they'll use that as their bed to sleep in, to keep away from the bigger issues. But it gravitates here. We've had a shooting down on South Walnut Street that was gang affiliated out of Springfield. So it's our job to try to keep our tabs on these people, to keep the list of, I know you're involved in this, I know you're you're part of this gang, and it's our job to keep that back, to keep them destabilized, to keep them on the run. And that's what, when we identify somebody that's higher up in the gang echelon, is, if you want to say it, we work at trying to make sure that person is put in jail, because we know that's the bad guy. The bad guy. We're the good guys, and that's the bad guy.
Yeah.
So trying to identify that person and trying to get a charge that'll keep them in jail is hard to do, because they could be involved in murders, but we don't have the proof to get them put away for murder. But we got a huge drug trafficking charge that we can put on them, so we put them in prison. But now you're seeing governors and politicians letting these people out left and right. Oh, it's just a drug thing. No, it's not. It's more than that. So
Yeah.
Well, it's driven, of course, by the almighty dollar.
Yes.
Nobody, that's not a statement of any acumen at all. Everybody, that's common sense. We all know that. But when it relates to small, and we are a small community here, how many people do you have on your force, Chief?
we're supposed to have 28.
Supposed to have 28.
Supposed to have 28, yeah.
But sometimes you're not up to your full table of organization.
No, sir. Yeah, trying to get with all the media hype and all of what's going on, trying to put us in as the bad guys, and all these years we're trying to be the good guys. We're put into situations that we got to make split-second decisions, and sometimes those decisions are bad because we don't have the time and the resources to train our people to that level of expertise that people love to think that we're supposed to be at from TV shows and etc. So
648-5510. Our guest this morning is Chief Paul Adams, doing a whale of a job out there. How's your new quarters working out, sir, in the old school?
They're doing good. Everything's coming together. A slight problem with some floors buckling here and there.
Lord knows you needed room.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we did need the room.
Which brings us to another department. That's our county sheriff's department. Are we going to be experiencing some necessities of working on the county jail?
It's in dire need of a lot of work.
Dire need.
But that's been constant, though. As far back as I've heard you talk about it, it's been an issue.
Yeah.
Chief, way back in the good old days, as they say, it was just kind of expected that between the sheriff's office and the treasurer's office, they'd just kind of switch offices when the time came.
In the good old days?
In the good old days.
Yeah.
That was just an accepted practice. Nobody thought anything about it. We had a good sheriff, we had a good treasurer, so let them have the job.
Oh, yeah.
And that's just the way it was.
Well, it's one of those things, you only have so much room back there. Before we had our dispatch center kind of like in the middle of the jail. And we had a locker room downstairs in the basement of the safety complex that the officers could use. We had some weight equipment down there that we could use. Well, they ended up taking all that out, moving that dispatch center downstairs so they can move the office of the jail more into the center and provide more space for more inmates in the back for beds, essentially. So, but it's now with COVID, you got to keep all these people separated. We have mental health issues. We're having a lot more women in jail than we ever had before, and trying to keep them separated. It's hard to do.
Well, you just knew that'd be the case, Jim. Those doggone women would create problems for everybody.
On behalf of the women of the world, I thank you very much for your opinion.
John, just so it may be.
And I hope you get a sore throat.
You mentioned dispatch, sir. The person who mans the phones 24/7 on the 911 calls, that just can't be the average Joe off the street. You have to have a considerable amount of expertise, medical as well as other things, to advise people and help people on the telephone. How do you come by people like that? That's got to be a tough job.
Yeah, for the sheriff too. He took on that responsibility also now, and it's really tough trying to find people that are articulate, being able to communicate very well, and being able to, because now you got to know how to type, and you got to be able to type quickly.
Oh, sure, because your
all that information into the computer now. Yeah, because the faster you can get in the computer, the faster you're getting it in the officer's hands, so they can see what's going on. So
Right.
Go ahead, Judith K.
Well, I was just thinking about after the weekend, they state all these facts about how many people died in Chicago, for instance, over the weekend, and it just blows your mind.
Oh yeah. Well, and that's what you're seeing a lot of those Democrats that were pushing for this defunding, and then now are reeling back, trying to figure out how to fund the police because crime it's out of control nationwide, out of control.
Well, and this certainly doesn't help that picture.
No, it does not.
Have you had any loss of numbers?
We did lose one to Missouri specifically because of all the new laws and what was going on. So, and I have guys that are looking to retire as quickly as they can now. So, and you're seeing police chiefs. And if you just look around, I mean, Bloomington police chief, Springfield police chiefs moving, Champaign police chief got a new job. I mean, you're seeing, and I'm seeing police chief applications all over the state of Illinois. So.
But there must be something really wrong if you've got people looking to retire, hoping to move, hoping to get out of it. There must be some systemic thing that's gone awry.
Well, it's
called politics in Illinois.
It is politics in Illinois, and unfortunately,
that's always been a
run
thing of
by
beauty.
Chicago, unfortunately, and Chicago has no idea what's going on down in the southern part of the state.
Right.
Nor do they care very
Nor do
much.
they care.
Yeah.
Correct.
Our guest this morning, Chief Paul Adams, Chief of Police of Lincoln, Illinois. I don't drive that much, so I'm not trying to curry any favors. We do. We're lucky here. We enjoy an excellent police force. In the past, Chief has had Matt Vlakovic with him, a young man that I've known for a long time, and I think Matt's kind of representative of our police department, seriously involved in taking care of police matters in Lincoln, Illinois. Must be difficult to look toward a reserve of officers when a vacancy occurs. I suppose you'd think you were in hog heaven if you had 5 or 6 to go to for a reserve.
Yeah. Currently, we're about to exhaust our lateral list, so we're going to be open that up probably soon. I have to wait for the Fire and Police Commission to authorize that. But right now we have our new hire, so our entry-level officer applications are due by October 1st. So we're hoping to get that, get some applicants in for that. I think we've had 5 so far, but we're hoping for a lot more. So
the matter of replacing,
Right.
if you run out.
No.
Oh, okay. No, don't worry about that. Okay, thank you.
Right.
I thought we had it. The depth of your
fine.
go-to chart when you have a vacancy. Is it pretty shallow?
very shallow now. Yeah, it used to be a lot deeper. I mean, when we had lateral applications, we'd probably get 10 or 11 applicants in, but now I can barely get one on the list.
Really?
How
It's
much
tough.
blame do you put on us for this having happened to you with this move to, quote, defund the police? You know, the very phrase makes me boil.
Oh yeah.
It is so stupid.
No, I don't blame. This is not our community issue. It's nothing. It's nothing that we've done wrong here locally. It's just the negative media that's been put out there just to gain ratings, and I think now we're hopeful. I think we're turning the right way now, and we're getting back on track where we need to be. But a lot of this legislation that came out with this police reform still needs to be corrected. So we're hoping for that before January 1st of this year too. So.
Hello.
And what will that involve?
Again, I think we talked about this last time, but there's still a lot to be changed in how exactly what they want from us from the training aspect, because they want all this different types of training, and we don't have there's nothing set up for it. So we've got to get this set up, and all the specifics are not there. So what exactly are you looking for? So like CIT training, or even our school resource officers, they've got to have new training. Well, all of our school resource officers have been trained, but apparently it's not enough. So it's always, okay, what is enough? Tell us what's enough. At least draw the
Define your
line so we
terms.
know where to go.
Chief Adams, put your headset on. We have a caller who wants to plead his case, I guess. Say he didn't run that stop sign. So go right ahead, caller, please. Good morning.
Hello? Hello?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, caller.
Do you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Hey, I was just wondering about if you have age requirements for a police officer down there in Lincoln.
So for the entry-level police officer, we are the minimum age is 35 years old, and the reason is because you can only work till you're 65, I believe, and then you must retire. So that gives you that 30-year pension. But 35, unless you have prior military. So there's some leeway there, depending on if you've been in the military, active military before that. Our lateral list, if
Go ahead, sir.
That's a bummer because I've been in the federal law enforcement for they're forcing me out at 56, and I've been to the academy and stuff. At federal level, I'd have to go to the state academy, but I'm from a little north of there, Armington.
Okay.
And,
Yeah.
I grew up there. And,
So I would suggest looking at sheriff's departments because they don't have that age restriction like the municipalities do, because we're governed by a little bit more stricter laws with the municipalities, but I believe the sheriff's offices have that flexibility.
Leisman was the sheriff there in Logan County for quite a while, wasn't he?
Who was that?
Policeman.
No.
Policeman?
He was a deputy for a little while, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, I went to school with him. I was thinking he was the sheriff, but maybe I'm wrong about that.
Yeah, he worked for the sheriff's office.
Okay, he was in my class at Olympia. But
Good.
Well, I hope the
Anyway.
chief's been able to help you, sir. And good luck to you as you seek out a new career. And thank you for whatever service you've given us, sir.
thank you. God bless.
Thank you. All right, there's somebody trying to find out a little bit more about the age of him and what it takes to get your foot in the stirrups there. I didn't pick up on the minimum age there, Chief.
35.
I know
35
it's
is
past my time. I'm done. But let's say you get a kid out of college.
Mm-hmm.
That'd all fall in the right age group, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So if you get like a 4-year degree, 21's when you have to be 21 to be able to even carry a handgun. So when you get out of college, that's perfect time to look for it. If you have that college is not required. So if you have as long as you have a high school diploma, you're good to go. But we always look for those college educated if possible. If you have time, if you have the finances, if you can get yourself through a police training institute before and have that training done, that makes you that much more favored when we're looking at new applicants. So
More saleable.
more sellable, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, let's address the elephant that's running around outside and wanting to get in the front door here. Our drug problem right here in Lincoln, Illinois. Serious problem, is it, Chief?
It's still a serious problem. It is. Heroin is slowly coming back again.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And again, that's money driven.
Yeah,
So
it is. It's and heroin is so addictive. It really is. We try to tell people stay away from heroin. It's the one drug that you do not want to get involved with, because the opioids are they're very, very addictive. That's why if you go to the doctor and you're getting prescribed an opioid, don't take it. If you have to take it, don't take it very long, because if you're on it for more than a couple of weeks, you're going to get addicted to it. So.
That quickly.
Oh yeah. It's very
addiction is
addictive.
a terrible disease, now whether it's alcohol or anything.
Yeah.
If you're addicted to something, that's a disease.
Yeah.
By definition, I think.
Oh yeah.
So What about rehab services? If some kid walks in off the streets and wants help,
Yeah, absolutely.
how do you go about that, Chief?
So we still have our program where we will help get that person to treatment. Make sure we'll get it set up. We'll get them the calls made to a treatment center, and we'll actually help facilitate getting them there if they don't have transportation. So we still have that open door policy for that. So even if you want to bring, let's say you want to bring in your drugs, bring them in. We'll throw them. We'll get rid of them for you. We're not going to charge you for it. And if you want help, we'll get you to help. So because that's the most important thing.
Does that really happen, that people come in and say, I've had it with this, I want help?
Yeah, but then there's been successful people that actually got through the program.
And it's a no questions asked situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
648-5510. Our guest this morning, Chief Paul Adams at Lincoln, Illinois Police Department. They're, again, I'm not driving that much, so as I said earlier, I'm not trying to curry any favors, but we're lucky to have this police force we have here. They're a dedicated group. We may find a little fault here and there with one individual or that individual, but don't judge the entire police force by an individual.
Yeah. No, not at all. So.
Well, most of your people have been with you for quite a while, haven't they?
Correct, yeah.
Do you have any brand new officers?
We do. The sheriff gets mad at me sometimes, but when we have our lateral list, they tend to come over because it is a good pay boost to come over to the city rather than the county. So, but I think that's where the problem is a lot of these guys, it's just not here. It's everywhere. The lateral process is getting very, very shallow because all those opportunities have been seized now, and everybody's kind of in the spot they want to be. There's no why change. If I don't need to change, I'm happy where I'm at type of deal. So now I'm really pushing for that new entry. We're just going to have to send people to the academy and get them trained and get them on the street. So, and we got a lot of retirements coming up over the next 3 years. So
now, do we have here in Lincoln, Illinois, what's known as a police and fire commission? That will be people on the street who are people in the community, and they're appointed by the mayor, the police and fire commission.
Yeah, the Fire and Police Commission is appointed by the mayor and approved by the council, yes.
Do you feel any unnecessary pressure at any point in time by individuals who might be on that commission who want to have an axe to grind or anything like that?
No, not necessarily.
I'd like to think that wouldn't be the case here.
Yeah, I mean, they're all good community members. We have to have a split. There's 2 Republicans and a Democrat on that board, so that's essentially
not a very
that.
Big board.
No,
is it?
and for us, municipalities statewide have to have that Fire and Police Commission. It's kind of like our civilian oversight. People, they claim all this defunding civilian oversight. That is our civilian oversight. Those are the people that lay down.
Do they write policy?
They don't write the policy, but they're the ones that, if an officer gets in trouble for something, we take it in front of the Fire and Police Commission Board for disciplinary action.
Speaking of defunding, Chief, we're going to be defunded here by our sponsors if we don't give them a little time on the air. So go right ahead, Mr. Ash. Right back live in the studios here of WLCN, high on County Road 2250, also known as Lazy Row. We have a gentleman representing a police force in this community. They are not representative of Lazy Row by any stretch of the imagination. Off air, we were talking about the danger right here in Lincoln, Illinois, Logan County. A routine traffic stop for whatever the reason may be. That's a dangerous thing to do because you have no idea who's in that car or what their motives are, whether anything at all about them. And any stop that might be routine is not routine today. Isn't that right, Chief Adams?
No, that's absolutely correct. I mean, the issues that we deal with, we are essentially the hub of the wheel here. I mean, between all these larger cities, and then you have St. Louis, and we're right on that main thoroughfare. And one simple traffic stop, you see it almost daily anymore, an officer being shot or shot at in some way, shape, or form. And with the number of gun sales that have happened, it's just a scary time. And all these officers, they want to protect you, but they want to go home to their families too, just like you do.
That's right. You mentioned off the air that you've been in law enforcement for 24 years.
Correct. Yep.
Has it changed dramatically? And if so, what's the main reason for that?
Well, it's you've seen over the years. What I've seen is the criminals have more rights than us.
Oh,
it really has.
We got the tail wagging the dog.
Yeah, it is. I'm sorry, but back in the day, just even the death penalty itself, when they got rid of it, okay, there was problems. Law enforcement, the way we were doing business and the way that things happened, there were issues with that, and I understand that. But now with the DNA evidence and the fact that we can we can pinpoint when somebody's in a spot that they're not supposed to be, and you've got that evidence, you've got confessions. That because our interview process has changed over the years. I mean, before and before I ever started, I'm sure that they did some things that they probably shouldn't have done to get confessions from people. But we don't do that anymore. I mean, if we get a confession, it's because that person actually confessed, and we're not browbeating anybody or hitting people with pistols anymore. We don't do that kind of stuff. It's all about respect and trying to establish that rapport with somebody, and by the time we're done talking, they usually tell us about their crimes. But you have those confessions, you have DNA evidence. I think it's a good time to bring back that death penalty just so we have something over these people from committing some of these murders. There's nothing over them right now. So it just, plus the fact that, we can't do a lot of things. We can't just barge into somebody's home. Because somebody tell us about a drug house and they want it done, they want it cleaned up the next day. We have to create cases. We have to put something together for the courts before they ever even look at and prosecute some of these cases. We just can't have one drug transaction at that place and they say, oh, okay, that's a drug house. No, you have to establish essentially a history.
Real pattern.
Of patterns that this is a drug house before they will prosecute it as that. So,
have the rights gotten in the wrong hands?
It makes we always seem like our hands are getting tied and the criminals' hands are getting loosened up. So it's just, every time we take a step forward, we figure out a different way to do something, somebody takes it away from us and says, no, because our freedoms are more important than the arrest. So, I understand that, and I fully support our Constitution, but we're going to have more rights as police officers to try to control the problem before the problem is controlled, because right now we can't do it.
Well, that seems so self-evident, though.
Yeah.
So why doesn't it swing that way then?
Because I don't know. I just don't understand that. I don't get it.
Chief, if you were to arrest somebody on a very important case, pick a number, would that arrestee be entitled to bail within a short time?
So the bail has changed and is going to change. So they essentially want to get rid of bail altogether. So they're still working on that. That's not going to be for a few more years. But right now, so if you get arrested for a charge, they've created this whole new category. You got Category A and Category B offenses. If it's a Category B offense, then we really can't hold you for those. Those are the petty crimes, property crimes, any misdemeanor crimes, not domestic battery or stuff like that, but the more less serious crimes. Now, if I do get to take you to jail, now they have essentially a clock that runs, so every day you get a little taken off your bail, so you get out a lot faster than you would before. So you're not sitting in jail for a very long time unless it's a capital offense like a murder or something to that effect.
Where do those ideas come from? Who's the smart guy?
The legislators up in the Chicago area. So that's all I can say.
There's a problem.
Well, but aren't they kind of pandering to the wrong crowd? I mean, if you're like a known criminal, you probably voting isn't the biggest thing on your list,
if you're a criminal, you don't like laws because they get in your business
Yeah.
way.
Am I naive in asking this question, sir? They say, well, we got to have more laws, more strict gun laws, and so forth. My answer to that, personally, is that I think there's enough laws. They just got to enforce the laws. Is that a naive position?
It's the sale of guns illegally to people, and I don't know. It's like a lot of your Chicago guns are actually bought, from the way I understand it, and this is what I've been told. I don't know if this is fact because I don't work up there, but a lot of those guns come from Indiana because they have much laxer laws over there in Indiana in sales. So they will funnel those guns to the streets over there. Mm-hmm. Here in Illinois, a lot of the guns will come from people not securing their guns at home in a good safe. So I come into your house, I burglarize your house, I take your 18 guns that you may have purchased, and I go out and I trade those for drugs or heroin or whatever else that I have. And then those guns make it back to the criminals, and then they use those in the shootings. So those are your two avenues of how they get the guns. So
is our location kind of a problem to law enforcement, being right here on 66? So you get the big boys from Chicago and St. Louis?
They pass through here. The nice thing is we try to keep a nice police presence. That's why we like to be out. That's why we like to do traffic stops. It's because we want to show our presence. If we keep up on the traffic stops, and I know sometimes it's petty. We're pulling you over for something very petty, like a license plate light out. I know it's a petty offense, but in the grand scheme of things, hey, those other ones that are coming through, oh wow, they're working here. They see the police. I'm not going to mess around here because these guys they're looking for the little things, let alone the big things. So, and those little petty offenses get us in the door to find the bigger things, because any crime that is committed almost all the time has to have a vehicle involved or some type of transportation. So that's how those are our entry points to figure out those crimes, is through those traffic stops. So if we're not doing traffic stops, and we can't do traffic stops because I think one state wants to get rid of license plates and petty little traffic stops, and I'm sorry, you're tying our hands where we should be doing that, because we're not just looking for that, we're looking for a myriad of things, and that's their entry point to get into that. And it's just one of those things. Hey, it may be your license plate lights out, Judy, but hey, I get to talk to you, I get to know you, I get to see you, and I'll probably let you off on a warning, and everybody's happy. What's wrong with that? But if you're the bad guy and I smell cannabis, or I see paraphernalia that would indicate that you may have illegal narcotics in your car, that's our entry point to get to that. If I don't have that, then I'm never going to get to that. So,
what area is the biggest change that you've seen in 24 years? I mean, that's a number of years to get a picture going.
Well, the violence that we've seen in schools over the years, I think, is the biggest change that I've seen.
That's interesting.
And the laws, we can complain about the laws, but the law is always going to change. It's always going to, I guess, what's the word?
Give me a noun.
Yeah. Anyway, it's going to change for the better all the time, hopefully for the better all the time. Sometimes we see backwards change, but it'll get better. But, the school violence is one of those big things, and that's why we have the SROs in the school now, because that's the one thing. Time is at the bad guys' advantage. So anytime you do a crime, you need time to do that crime. So the more time that person has, because if you do evaluation of the school shootings that have happened, it's those shooters that have been in there for more than 10, 15 minutes that have done the most damage. With a school resource officer, you don't have that time.
Well,
you have that officer there like that, and they if nothing else, they may get somebody, but the school resource should stop that almost instantaneously.
That's an interesting thing that's so important today in our educational system, to have a resource officer from the city police officer department be a part of their education system. When Bill Hanlon was principal at Lincoln Community High School, he was the enforcement officer, and if he said yes, you jumped. Today, that respect has unfortunately gone over the horizon, and part of that, I suspect, Chief, comes from the fact that you have parents who aren't parents at all. They're just physically parents, but they're not in the game. And if the police department can't have the support and respect of parents, then it's going to be pretty tough for the kid to respect the police officer.
Well, it's hard to, there's no real, I guess, profile of a school shooter. I mean, there isn't. I mean, you can't profile an individual because you don't know who's going to have it. I mean, some of the best kids are the ones that become shooters sometimes because you don't know what clicks inside the head that's going to make somebody do something like that. So you don't know. So you could have the best parents in the world sometimes. It's just the stresses that some of these kids are being put under is what makes it even worse, I guess you could say. So, we do have some bad parents, but that's where the school resource officers and the teachers actually come in, because they help and they understand. With Christy, helping us with this last winter with kids getting coats that didn't have good quality coats, and getting some of those funds together to help those kids. I mean, that's huge, and that helps build those relationships within law enforcement and our kids now, that I hope will go to the next generation. So the respect that you were talking about.
Yeah, see, that's a really big word to me. I think that's so lagging in so many areas of our lives. We don't respect our neighbor. We don't respect the policeman. We want to defund him. That's the most harebrained thing. Where did that start?
Up there in Minneapolis, when that.
Minneapolis?
Yeah, I remember that case.
But that started. I mean, it's been the underlying principles of a lot of I hate the police type organizations. So
648-5510. Our guest this morning, Chief Paul Adams, Lincoln, Illinois Chief of Police. And I note on a somewhat somber note that the chief's wearing on his badge a little black piece of cloth in memoriam to a police officer who was fallen. And there's a lot of that going on. It's just hard. Every day you pick up the paper, you're not shocked when you see somebody got killed. And
life is so precious.
When the policeman goes out of his office out of your office every day, he never knows what's going to happen before his shift is over. Mm-hmm. And this, as I said a while ago, just walking up on a car you've stopped for a stop sign violation, that's not an easy thing to do. You have to be, it's hard to say this, but you have to be ready for anything when you stop a car.
Yeah, absolutely. Stop a car or talk to somebody, doesn't matter anymore.
That's a training thing, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
But you see that when you open that door to go up to that car, that's in your mind every second.
Mm-hmm. That's why we're trained to have our hand close to our duty weapon, so if something happens, we're quick to hopefully react. So, but reaction is always much slower than
648-5510. This is your last chance to get a question and or comment. If you see somebody on the street, tell them thanks for their work. Mm-hmm. Just like, I have a little sticker on the back of my car that says World War II I served. Thousands and thousands of us out there. Somebody came up to me the other day as I opened my car door and thanked me. I about fell out of the car. That just... But it's not wrong to thank folks on the street in blue who are working for you.
Yep, absolutely.
They want to...
How often does somebody say thank you?
It's actually, it's actually gotten a lot better.
Really?
Yes. It really
Well, do you
has.
think it's because the news is so full of this defund business? We're thinking about, well, wait now.
I think the intelligent people understand, yes.
There's your problem. You used the word intelligent people. We need more of them. We need less who will just think, oh, those so-and-sos. Anyway, Paul, would you like to conclude with any remarks that you would like to make, sir?
No, I just want to congratulate our officers of the year. I was a little bit behind on that with all the move and everything. You get tied up on things, but no excuses. Better late than never. 2018 was Tim Butterfield for all his work with the reaching out with the I Love You Guys program, which is our program that for our standard response protocols. So he essentially went out to the entire Logan County and taught all our schools and got everybody on the same page on that. So we have a standard operating procedure now for all the schools in Logan County. Sheriff's Office know it, we know it, fire departments know it, paramedics know it. We all been trained on it. So I gave him the Officer of the Year for 2018. 2019 was Sergeant Kevin Lynn. He did a really great job with his shift that year. Got the most DUIs for the year. Ended up with 53 DUIs that year. 18 was by himself. So I mean, he led by example, and I appreciate that. And that's that's those characteristics that we need for our law enforcement officers. 2020, even though we couldn't do much because of COVID. I had to put the leash on, but that was a pun intended. You'll see why here in a second. But once I let that leash off, I told the guys, go out there and let's start making stops. Let's get back to doing the job we're supposed to be doing. And Officer Ryan Sullivan got the Officer of the Year for 2020 because he ended up getting a lot of meth and heroin and seizing like $20,000 in currency from some stops that he did. So he did a really great job that year.
That's a big piece of change.
Yeah, hopefully we can get a new canine card because we really need one.
Our appreciation, sincere appreciation for Chief of Police Paul Adams to taking his time this morning to appear with us on Viewpoint. Judy and I struggle, we don't struggle, but we do try hard to bring you different guests that do important things in the community, and certainly our police force is very, very important to our community. Paul, thank you very much for being with us this morning.
Thanks for having me again.
Thank you.